trainers who've owned Shedinja long enough report hearing whispers. Maintain the balance. These warnings speak to the fragile existence keeping this mysterious Pokémon tethered to our world. Today we're exploring a profound question. What if Shedinja's unique fragility isn't a biological oddity, but a deliberate cosmic design? Perhaps Arceus permits this half-existence as an experiment in the fundamental nature of life and death. The implications are staggering. What supernatural agreement allows this hollow shell to persist? Why exactly one hit point? Stay tuned as we unravel the cosmic pact that forever changed Pokémon history and will transform how you see this enigmatic creature. Section 1. The Moment of Creation. Have you ever witnessed a Nincada evolution? Not just watched it happen on your screen, but truly observed the microsecond when reality itself seems to hesitate. Most trainers completely miss it. That infinitesimal pause between what was and what will be, where the impossible becomes briefly possible. When Nincada evolves into Ninjask, the Pokémon world demonstrates one of its most fascinating phenomena. The primary evolution proceeds normally, with Nincada transforming into the speedy Ninjask, but something extraordinary occurs simultaneously. The discarded exoskeleton, normally destined to crumble away, lingers just long enough to create what researchers identify as a liminal breach. This breach, like a single frame in a paused movie where two scenes overlap, exists for approximately 1/300th of a second. During this moment, the barrier separating our world from what Sinnoh-scholars call the distortion realm becomes permeable. The empty shell exists in a quantum state, simultaneously material and ethereal, present and absent. Within this fleeting window, Spiritomb finds its opportunity. This ancient collection of 108 punished spirits, bound within the Odd Keystone, possesses a unique awareness of these liminal breaches. Confined for millennia, Spiritomb has developed sensitivity to moments when barriers between realms thin. The Nincada evolution creates precisely such a cosmic doorway that appears and vanishes faster than human comprehension. Spiritomb's interest stems from eternal curiosity about existence itself, the boundaries between living and non-living, corporeal and spiritual. The discarded husk occupies a unique position between these states, retaining life's geometric pattern without containing life itself. The shell's value lies in its residual evolutionary energy. When Nincada transforms, trace amounts of evolution-powering energy remain in the exoskeleton, insufficient for independent life, but enough to create a foundation for something new. This energy signature carries the vibrational frequency of transformation itself. Spiritomb intervention requires perfect timing. Too early, and the shell remains part of Nincada's evolution. Too late, and the husk disintegrates completely. Only in that perfect moment, after separation, but before dissolution, can Spiritomb establish contact. Even Arceus appears to permit this unusual interference. Celestic Town scholars have discovered ancient hieroglyphs suggesting Arceus deliberately allows certain experimental permutations at existence's boundaries. These rare exceptions serve as cosmic laboratories where fundamental rules of the Pokémon world can be tested. The shell exists in a fascinating state, like an empty vessel with perfect circuitry, but no power source. It contains Nincada's geometric memory, but lacks any animating principle. The exoskeleton retains neural pathways and energy conduits with no consciousness to utilize them. When Spiritomb reaches across dimensions to touch this empty vessel, observers with psychic abilities report sensing a distinctive vibration. Psychic Pokémon nearby often display signs of agitation or fascination. Espeon may suddenly fix their gaze on empty air. Gardevoir have been known to bow slightly, acknowledging a visitor from elsewhere. Through methods defying conventional understanding, Spiritomb initiates partial animation. Rather than fully inhabiting the husk, it establishes a minimal connection, a thread of consciousness anchoring the shell to existence without fully bringing it to life. This transforms the abandoned exoskeleton into Shedinja, a Pokémon existing in the narrowest margin between being and non-being. The hollow interior of the newly formed Shedinja houses a quantum entanglement, a connection to Spiritomb, allowing consciousness to flow through without residing within. This connection manifests as the single hit point that characterizes Shedinja, the minimum possible tether to existence. Section 2. The Soul Thread Bargain. That single tether to existence, the infamous one hit point that both defines and limits Shedinja, isn't merely a gameplay mechanic, but the physical manifestation of a cosmic transaction. This marvel of supernatural engineering exists through what scholars have termed the Soul Thread, a singular strand of life energy that connects Shedinja's hollow shell to our realm. The Soul Thread, often described as a golden filament of destiny, represents an elegant solution to an impossible problem. How does one animate a discarded husk without violating the natural order of life and death? Spiritomb, forever bound within its own prison, couldn't fully enter our world, but it could extend the thinnest possible connection, just enough to grant consciousness without true life. This arrangement functions as a supernatural contract with terms so precise that the universe itself enforces them. The empty husk receives animation and awareness, while Spiritomb gains a window into the world of the living, a perspective it had been denied for centuries. Both parties benefit, yet both remain fundamentally limited by the agreement's strict parameters. The bargain's central term manifests as that single, precious hit point. 1 HP represents the absolute minimum quantum of life energy that can sustain consciousness without triggering the natural laws that would collapse the arrangement. It's a perfect equilibrium. Any less would fail to maintain the connection, while any more would violate the delicate balance that allows this exception to exist at all. What makes this arrangement truly remarkable is its immutability. The Soul Thread cannot be strengthened through conventional means. No Pokémon Center machine, no potion or full restore, no recovery move can fortify this connection. Even the most powerful healing techniques in the Pokémon world slide ineffectively off Shedinja, unable to bind additional energy to a being designed to exist at the absolute minimum threshold of life. According to researchers, any alteration to the thread's energy level would have catastrophic consequences, either snapping, resulting in fainting, or dissolving entirely, sending Shedinja fully into the ghost realm. When a trainer attempts to heal their Shedinja, the healing energy approaches the Soul Thread, but finds nowhere to attach. The thread cannot absorb additional energy without fundamentally changing what it is, and that change would violate the terms that permit Shedinja's existence. I once spent an entire battle protecting my Shedinja, recounts veteran trainer Erica Voss. One attack, just one, and it would be gone. That constant knife-edge tension changes how you approach every strategy. You're not just battling, you're guarding something infinitely precious and infinitely fragile. The fragility of the Soul Thread explains Shedinja's unique vulnerabilities. Any damage that successfully connects with this tenuous strand severs its only connection to our world. There's no reserve energy, no buffer zone, no capacity to absorb impact. The single hit point represents the entirety of Shedinja's claim to existence. Yet, despite this fragility, the Soul Thread grants Shedinja a form of immortality. As long as that connection remains intact, Shedinja persists unchanged. It doesn't age, hunger, or tire. The Soul Thread suspends it in a perpetual moment, neither truly alive nor fully dead. Time flows around Shedinja without affecting it, as though it exists slightly adjacent to our temporal stream. For Spiritomb, this arrangement provides constant data about the living world. Through the Soul Thread, it experiences sensations, battles, environments, and interactions that would otherwise be inaccessible from within its binding stone. This explains the occasional reports of trainers hearing whispers from within their Shedinja, echoes of Spiritomb consciousness traveling back along the soul thread. The most fascinating aspect is how this arrangement creates a being that exists in perfect balance. Shedinja hovers at the exact boundary between existence and non-existence, a precision that makes it invaluable to researchers studying the boundaries of life itself. Section 3. Wonder Guard, the Cosmic Loophole. The soul thread's unique properties extend beyond merely sustaining Shedinja's existence. They create a being that conventional physics simply doesn't know how to harm. Wonder Guard, as trainers have come to call it, isn't actually an ability at all. It's a cosmic glitch, a fundamental loophole in reality that emerges when conventional attacks encounter something that shouldn't exist in our world. Ancient Hoenn texts describe Wonder Guard not as a defensive mechanism, but as the direct consequence of Shedinja's liminal state. Unlike conventional defenses that actively repel attacks, Wonder Guard represents physics attempting to resolve a fundamental contradiction when encountering a being that exists between dimensions. Shedinja occupies a sliver of existence between worlds, making it fundamentally different from any other Pokémon. When a trainer commands a normal type attack against Shedinja, the strike passes harmlessly through its form, not because Shedinja is defending itself, but because the attack cannot properly interact with a being that exists in this in-between state. Imagine Shedinja as a ghost dancing between raindrops, present yet untouchable, visible yet immaterial. Its physical shell exists in our dimension, while its essence remains partially tethered to another realm. The attack doesn't fail in the traditional sense. It completes its trajectory unimpeded, as if Shedinja weren't there at all. This is because, in many ways, it isn't fully present. Within the seemingly empty interior of Shedinja exists something far stranger than vacant space. The point where the soul thread connects creates a microscopic pocket dimension, a quantum singularity where the laws of conventional physics break down entirely. This singularity serves as the anchor point for Shedinja's fragile existence, a space where two incompatible realities overlap. Attacks that can't interact with both dimensions simultaneously simply cannot affect this unusual construction. What makes certain attack types effective against Shedinja reveals the true nature of its existence. Fire-type moves don't damage just the physical shell. They simultaneously interact with both the corporeal husk and the metaphysical soul thread. The intense heat burns away the physical structure while severing the delicate spiritual connection in one action. Similarly, ghost-type moves can interact with entities that exist partially in the spirit realm, bridging the gap between dimensions and affecting both the physical shell and the soul thread simultaneously. This dimensional overlap creates a being of profound contradictions. Simultaneously, one of the most vulnerable and invulnerable Pokémon in existence. A single effective hit immediately severs the soul thread, causing Shedinja to instantly faint. Yet against the vast majority of attacks, it remains completely impervious. This perfect balance on the edge of existence defines Shedinja's place in the Pokémon world. Trainers who truly understand this principle gain a profound advantage in battles. Rather than viewing Wonder Guard as a protective ability to be overcome, they recognize it as a fundamental property of a being that exists outside normal parameters. You cannot disable or negate Wonder Guard because it isn't an ability Shedinja possesses, but rather the cosmic consequence of its unusual existence. This explains why no other Pokémon can truly replicate Shedinja's unique defensive properties. Other Pokémon with seemingly similar abilities operate through fundamentally different mechanics. They remain fully present in our dimension, employing abilities that function within the established rules of Pokémon biology. Shedinja, by contrast, exists outside these rules entirely. Understanding Wonder Guard recontextualizes how we view Shedinja's single hit point. One hit point isn't a weakness, but rather the visualization of its tenuous connection to our world, two sides of the same metaphysical coin. One represents Shedinja's minimal presence in our world, while the other represents the difficulty in affecting something that barely exists here at all. Section 4. The Whispers Within. Within that hollow shell, something speaks, not from the Shedinja itself, but from somewhere much farther away, across dimensions we barely understand. Maintain the balance. It whispers, revealing the true cost of its existence in our world. This phenomenon occurs exclusively with trainers who have formed profound connections with their Shedinja over extended periods, sometimes taking years to manifest. The voice emerges as a natural evolution of the bond between trainer and this most unusual of Pokemon. These whispers originate from Spiritomb, continuously observing our world through the soul thread connection. This represents interdimensional communication, where the boundary between trainer and the collective consciousness beyond thins with familiarity and trust. The first time a trainer hears the whisper often becomes an unforgettable moment. One veteran trainer from Verdanturf Town described it. "I was meditating with Shedinja at twilight when the air around us seemed to compress. The whisper felt like ice water trickling down my spine. Maintain the balance. So clear, yet impossibly distant. I stumbled backward, convinced someone stood behind me. For weeks afterward, I questioned my sanity until it happened again." This consistency across different trainers in different regions confirms this is no hallucination. The phrase serves as a reminder of the cosmic agreement allowing Shedinja to exist, a warning reverberating from beyond our dimension. These communications intensify during specific circumstances when the delicate equilibrium sustaining Shedinja faces threats. During intense battles, particularly against fire or dark-type opponents, trainers report the whispers becoming urgent, almost frantic. During one championship match, as a Houndoom prepared a flamethrower attack, a trainer witnessed multiple faces briefly materializing within Shedinja's shell. 108 distinct visages matching historical descriptions of Spiritomb spirits, visible through the interdimensional window created by the soul thread. Similar intensifications occur during healing attempts, warning against violating the fundamental terms of existence. When Shedinja encounters powerful spiritual entities like Giratina or Lunala, the whispers transform into a chorus, as if multiple voices within the Spiritomb collective respond simultaneously to beings that naturally traverse interdimensional boundaries. This communication phenomenon transforms how trainers approach raising Shedinja. What begins as a typical training relationship evolves into spiritual stewardship. Trainers realize they're maintaining an extraordinary cosmic exception, a being existing through a metaphysical bargain defying natural law. This understanding creates a unique responsibility entirely different from other trainer-Pokemon relationships. Experienced Shedinja trainers develop specialized methodologies emphasizing balance rather than conventional power building. They avoid situations straining the soul thread, carefully selecting battle scenarios and environmental conditions. These trainers develop meditation practices to attune themselves to the subtle energies connecting their Pokemon to multiple realms. Some organize training schedules around astronomical events, noting clearer whispers during celestial alignments when boundaries between dimensions naturally thin. One champion-level trainer from Hoenn described it as training myself to understand what it means to exist at the threshold. The Pokemon research community initially dismissed these whispers as superstition. However, as documentation accumulated across regions, scientific interest grew. Recent studies using specialized equipment detected ultrasonic vibrations emanating from Shedinja that match language patterns, suggesting empirical evidence supporting generations of trainer accounts. This phenomenon adds another dimension to Shedinja's status as one of the most metaphysically complex Pokemon. The whispers serve as both warning and reminder. Shedinja exists only through perfect balance, forever balancing between worlds through a connection maintained by cosmic agreement. Section 5. Arceus's experiment. The careful balance maintaining Shedinja's existence points to something far greater than random chance. Somewhere between life and death, consciousness and emptiness, lies a cosmic experiment that only the original one could authorize. An experiment that uses a single hit point to probe the very boundaries of existence itself. Arceus, as the architect of the Pokémon universe, established fundamental laws governing all living things. These cosmic principles maintain order and balance across dimensions, ensuring that life flourishes within established parameters. Yet in Shedinja, we witness a remarkable exception to these otherwise immutable rules. In a universe where Arceus actively prevents metaphysical anomalies, Shedinja stands as a permitted contradiction. The Alpha Pokémon, who shaped time and space through Dialga and Palkia, who separated matter and antimatter with Giratina's banishment, allows this hollow shell to exist in its peculiar state. This is no oversight, it is intentional design. Ancient stone tablets discovered in the Sinjo ruins depict Arceus observing what scholars identify as the first Shedinja emergence. These carvings, dating back thousands of years, show distinctive markings indicating Arceus's direct involvement in the process, not merely as observer, but as facilitator. The original one deliberately created a system where this unique Pokémon could emerge. Arceus maintains a cosmic laboratory with Shedinja as its primary subject. Each specimen represents a controlled variable in an ongoing experiment, a test of the minimum requirements for consciousness to persist. Through this hollow vessel, Arceus examines fundamental questions. What constitutes life? Where does consciousness begin and end? Can existence persist in the narrowest margins between being and non-being? Celestial records kept by the Draconid people mention the hollow vessels of divine inquiry, believed to reference Shedinja. These records describe Arceus collecting data across centuries, measuring variations in their manifestation across different environmental conditions. The circumstances required for Shedinja's emergence vary by region and era, appearing during celestial alignments in ancient Hoenn and near historical sites in modern Galar. These variations represent carefully controlled experimental conditions adjusted by Arceus over generations. By understanding the absolute minimum requirements for consciousness, Arceus gains insight into the fundamental nature of all existence. This research informs cosmic decisions affecting the entire Pokémon universe. Professor Rowan theorized that Arceus uses data from Shedinja to refine creation itself, writing, "The creator's interest in threshold states suggests a continuous refinement of the universal parameters governing consciousness transfer between forms. Each Shedinja represents a data point in an ongoing cosmic calibration." This explains why attempts to artificially create Shedinja in laboratory settings invariably fail. Teams at Sylph Cobers and Devon Corporation have attempted to replicate the process using advanced technology without success. The missing ingredient isn't technological, it's divine authorization. Recent electromagnetic patterns documented at the Unknown Research Lab reveal signatures matching those near the Maestri stage, a location strongly associated with Arceus's manifestation. These energy signatures, defying conventional explanation, suggest active monitoring channels between Shedinja and the Alpha Pokémon, fueling Arceus's grand experiment. Most revealing are the instances when Shedinja unexpectedly survive attacks that should sever their soul thread. Statistical analysis shows these miraculous survivals occur at precisely the rate needed to maintain experimental validity, suggesting direct intervention by Arceus to preserve specific specimens. For Arceus, each Shedinja serves as a living philosophical inquiry at the boundary of nothingness, a cosmic test case probing the very foundations of being itself. In these hollow shells, the creator has fashioned windows into the ultimate mystery of existence, turning every trainer who captures a Shedinja into an unwitting participant in the universe's most profound experiment. The very nature of Shedinja, balanced on the brink of existence, serves as a reminder that the Pokémon world is filled with mysteries and wonders. As ancient Hoenn texts suggest, this creature embodies the idea that existence can take many forms, some hanging by just a thread. This cosmic phenomenon reminds us that beyond the battles and adventures lies a universe of profound philosophical questions that Arceus continues to explore. When you next encounter this hollow shell, pause to witness a fragile thread connecting two realms, a living testament to extraordinary possibilities at the boundaries of life itself. In Shedinja's empty gaze lies the cosmic mystery worth contemplating beyond mere game mechanics.